All right, all right, all right. Happy Friday. Megan, happy
Hmm.
Friday. Happy first recap of 2022 Fish. How are you doing here today?
I'm doing great. That sounds really good to hear. I'm so
Doesn't
glad Fish is back. Yeah, yesterday I had this smile on my face all day. I was like, it's Trey Day. So I was happy.
it? Trey kind of looked like he was feeling like it was Trey Day yesterday. We're gonna get into that. But like
Absolutely.
he was like he was vibing yesterday. It was so awesome to see.
Yeah, he looked so happy.
He did. The band looked happy. Everybody looked happy. Well, I mean, we are just diving into it right now. It's this is HF Pod on tour. Brian and Megan with you here today, talking through Fish's performance from what is it, the Moon Palace here in Cancun, Mexico, on February 24th, 2022, the opening night of the Mexico 2022 run. It's really crazy. I keep thinking to myself, like, I go back 2 years from now. Um, we have this Mexico 2020 run. It's the first 4 night Mexico run. It's the first run with the opening set with the early matinee type of evening, or early evening, if you will, Sunday night set. All these things are changing, but we're looking ahead to Fish 2020. We've got great tour dates on the horizon, all this sort of stuff. And little do we know that in 2 weeks, the entire world is going to change and we will not have live music. We will not have Fish, so on and so forth for the remainder of 2020. And now here we are, we're back, and it just feels like we're just continuing. We had all these great Fish shows in 2021, and this is now picking up the sounds of last year's Fish. It was a ton of fun to get back to it, and it felt normal in the right way.
Yeah, I agree. It felt like this is what a Fish year is supposed to start out feeling like, right? We had
Yeah.
like a killer fall tour. Sadly, we didn't have a New Year's run, but I think that kind of inability to play really fueled them to be super excited about this run. So I think they came out feeling pretty good and sounding really great.
Agree. And we're going to dive into what we thought about this show overall. Before we do that, really quickly, I just want to let everyone who's listening out there know. So, number one, we will be hanging out here at 1 p.m. Eastern on this feed for the next 3 days, talking through Fish Mexico 2022. Meg has even taken time out of her vacation to do this. She's about to leave to go to upstate New York. She's even going to be hanging out on vacation talking Fish. What a dedicated co host you are. Jonathan will be joining us this weekend, and we'll have some very special guests on Sunday and Monday as well to dive into these shows. But for anyone listening out there, please share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you guys think or thought about last night's show. Any predictions, wild, crazy predictions, bigger bust outs, bigger special guests, whatever you want it to be. There's got to be some other musician just hanging out in Cancun right now who's like, yeah, I'll play with you. You want me to? But I do want to let you guys know as well that we just launched yesterday HFPod Premium, which is on the Osiris Media feed on Apple Podcasts. So just subscribe to Osiris Media on Apple Podcasts. You get all Osiris Media content ad free, and you get a bonus HF Pod segment that will come out on like a weekly, bi-weekly, semi-regular, irregular basis. But we're going to bring you a lot more content. We had a ton of fun recording our first segment. Meg, do you want to tell listeners what we talked about in our first bonus segment?
Sure. We talked about what Fish is going to sound like in 2022. And it was really cool to record that on Wednesday and then watch the show last night. It was really fun to kind of see how our predictions fared against the reality of Fish in 2022. And I'm really curious as to what people think about it. So if you're not a premium member, sign up. It's an awesome way to support independent podcasts and to get this content ad free.
Absolutely. And to that point, I'm not a betting man. I've gotten screwed over betting many times. I just have decided it's just not where I'm at. I love sports, and I try to predict what's going to happen in baseball and basketball every year. And usually by like day one, I'm like, man, you were completely off. That team is going to be horrible this year. Or that team's going to be way better than you expected. It felt really nice to have us make our predictions and then watch this show last night and be like, were we onto
Hmm.
something? I think
Hmm.
you may have been onto something a little bit more than me, but I think there were hints of what I was going for in certain places, which we'll get into. But I was really excited to hear that and be like, hey, maybe we're hearing this correctly.
Yeah, and give
Before
it
we
time,
do,
Brian. What you like about fish and wanna hear more of, it's gonna come. It just takes time
it,
to warm up to that, I think.
it takes time to get to the
Mhm.
darkness, you got
It
to see the
does.
light first.
Yep.
But before we get into the show, though, we want to tell you really quickly, as we do every week, our sponsor, Sunset Lake CBD. Sunset Lake CBD has a line of smokable hemp products, which are for the old deadhead, the young fish fan, or even your cousin who's the Dave Matthews fan that got you into fish originally through Dave live at Red Rocks. More relevancy on that a little bit
I like
later.
how you did that. I
Um,
like how you did that.
little nice little segue in there. Um, anyone in your life who's searching for a mellow body high, smoking CBD has all the benefits of high THC cannabis without the paranoid and anxious side effects. There's 9 different strains from this year's harvest. There's something for everyone. Hawaiian Haze is awesome for an outdoor show like at Mexico or like maybe Deer Creek or Alpine Valley this summer. Who's to say? And cherry abacus is best for the end of the night. Like when couch tour ends, you got a few dishes to do, but you just kind of need a little bit to kind of mellow you out as that's happening. All the flowers grown, cured, and trimmed by Sunset Lake CBD farmers. Even better, Sunset Lake CBD's farm to table approach gets you great pricing on premium CBD flower by shipping directly from their farm to your door. And I just want to share really quickly. I love smoking grass. It's one of my favorite things. I stopped drinking about a year and a half ago, and smoking grass has been a great way to just like give me a little bit of a buzz. But I've been looking for something lighter, and CBD offers me exactly what I need. I can still be there in the moment, but I'm also feeling a little bit loose, a little bit relaxed. It's a fantastic thing. So please check out sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the coupon code HFPod for 20% off all products. Again, that's Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown. And with that, Meg, give me your 10,000-foot view of what Mexico night one felt like.
I mean, the vibe seemed super right. I think that just watching everybody waiting for the show to start, the beach looked packed, everybody looked super happy, and I love when they show the crowd, like, before the show starts. It's just such a fun that's, like, the best part of a show for me, like, the anticipation before they come on. You're just, like you've got that, like, I don't know, kind of butterflies in your stomach feeling, and you imagine I've never been to Mexico to see fish, so you've flown all this way. Everybody's there for the same thing. I mean, that's got to be some awesome anticipation. I love flying to a venue. It just makes me feel so extra excited about it. So I think the vibe seemed super right. And I think they came out and just were ready to have a really great time. I think they were really well rehearsed. I think they sounded like they'd all been practicing a lot. And I think they played really well. Fun bust outs, an awesome encore. I think it was a really great show. We had some moments of like some really great jamming too, which I'm excited to dig into.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I was thinking about it as like I was watching just the crowd on stage. Um, when you go to like a tropical place in the middle of winter, it's such a weird
Mm.
moment of realizing that like it just doesn't get winter everywhere in the world. And some places just stay really, really pleasant and amazing like throughout the year.
It doesn't
Uh,
have to be like this.
it doesn't. I traveled through Southeast Asia in the late winter, early spring of 2014. And I remember just like at some point I had to just like stop talking to people from back home until like late April, early May when the weather got nice enough for them
They didn't want
because
to hear it.
I was just like, oh my God, it's an amazing day today. And like you're watching people in Mexico like coming from, snowbound like cities in across America. It's like 3 degrees right now in Denver, slowly raising. We should be at 15 by the end of the day, but it's been this like crazy cold snap. And to see people in Mexico and be like, oh yeah, there's just like really pleasant places to go and hang out in this world. So I felt like immediately we were back in this. It's now become slightly normal. This is their
Mhm.
fifth run in Mexico. It's like something that doesn't feel weird anymore. It feels a part of the touring schedule in some cases. And I really like this one set approach to Open the Run. I
Mhm.
think it does a nice job. I've got to imagine on the ground, it does a nice job of like ushering you in. It feels long enough like a Fish show, but at the same time, it I don't know, missing that set break. There's something about it that feels more casual. And
Mhm.
I like how it offers the band an opportunity to kind of mix in some jamming, maybe a little bust out here and there, but kind of just like play themselves into this event. And I've got to imagine for them, it just adds to the appeal of no pressure of like you have to go from night one type of thing. So I really enjoy it. I think it fits the vibe. Should we jump into the show and kind of start going through these songs here?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the band comes out, and I didn't put a lot of thought into what they were gonna open with. I don't know, did you feel like a strong premonition of this is what I think that they're gonna open with?
No, my parents came. They are watching my kids this weekend when I go away, and they were sitting next to me on the couch, and my dad's like, "Okay, so what is it? What are they gonna play?" And I'm like, "Dad, I never play this game because 'cause I'll always lose." But I really didn't expect it to be lizards. So, I would have really lost.
Well, if you'd predicted Lizards, it would have been kind of crazy because this was only the 2nd Lizards opener ever. The
I
first
mean,
Lizards opener since January 29th, 1990.
that's crazy. That's a
Crazy.
statement.
That's a statement. That's,
Mhm,
one of their lizards are in like one of those categories of like if if Fish whenever Fish is over as a band and you're like, okay, what are the 20 songs I need to hear to know who Fish is? Lizards has to go into that category. It
mhm,
sets up this large story that they've been telling. It showcases all these musical ideas and like musical tendencies that they tend to follow. And it's one of those songs that I kind of wish it would open more shows because it just kind of gives you a sensation of, it's Fish. We're back.
yeah, absolutely, and it really set the tone. I mean, I think Trey sounded amazing. It was played
He
so
did.
well. I don't think he missed a note. I mean, it was really well played. So clearly they came out ready to make their mark on the night, which I think was awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely also a song. It's not like, like Sample or I don't know. I'm trying to think of just like classic rock songs that they could play that like would just be like a rock and roll song to get the set going. Like this is actually like a song they have to really think about because there's multiple sections, and that
Mhm.
really set the table of how they're going to approach this evening. And I agree, Trey sounded great. Um, did you think at any second that they were going to go into Gamehenge?
No, not even for a second. I have put
Okay,
that idea to bed. Did
that's
you?
a good. There was like a small thought that was like, well, I wonder if they would do it here. It's an exclusive event. They've got all
Yeah.
these people who love them down there. We're all webcasting. I know that there would have been people would have been up in arms. I would have been okay with it. I'm kind
Mhm.
of just at the point now of like they should just do it at some point. Like
They
there's
should.
it's not this like, you know, Gamehenge is a fun story that like, some group of people should be rewarded for, but they moved into instead the MoMA dance, which feels like the greatest two-hole Fish song ever. It's just like, well, all right, we've said our statement, we've gotten going. Here's the song that is going to like get us into the groove. And this one was not as explosive as some of the versions that we heard during the fall following that JFAT tour where MoMA Dance was
Mm.
featured as one of the big jam vehicles, but it did get us into the pocket. It was a great, like, you know, I, MoMA is one of those songs that early on, sometimes it feels like a standard placement at this spot, but I'm really never going to complain because it just kind of gets everyone down. And I've got to imagine, like, on stage, the band just feels this sense of loosening up, getting in a groove, and they feel really good afterwards. What were your thoughts on this performance?
Yeah, I thought it was a great performance. I thought it was nice. I mean, I think this song always makes me so happy. I feel like the band plays it so well. I always love where they go with it, whether they take it out far or they don't. I feel like it's always just such a great groove. I think it sounded awesome last night. I also think it's a perfect beach song. I mean, is there a song that you'd want to dance to more in a bathing suit? Like, I mean, oh my God, like this song is so sexy. I love it. So I thought it was great. And I really thought it was nice coming out of lizards. I think that's like a perfect kind of like, okay, now, yeah, like you were saying, lizards is like, it's such a unique song. It doesn't sound like like you're gonna start a party. You know, it's a different
Yeah.
vibe. So I think MoMA is kind of like, all right, we're like easing into this party tonight, which I think is cool.
I've become a fan of when artists open a show with like a slower song. I just saw the
Mhm.
War on Drugs last week, and they're opening pretty much every show of this tour with the song called Old Skin off the new record. That's like a very, very slow build until it gets to this drum like just explosion like halfway through the song. And there's something to be said about a slow build into a show versus a big power chord. We're in it, we're rocking. And
Mhm.
I love how Lizard's MoMA kind of gives you this dichotomy of what you were saying. Like, we're on the beach, we just kind of want to like sit back, stroll on in, and then we're ready to rock. And once you're ready to rock,
Yeah.
MoMA's there.
Yeah, I feel like I saw this show in Charlotte in 2019 and they opened with Have Mercy, and it was like the
Oh,
best
yeah,
vibe, you know? It was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're just gonna, like, ease into this night," and it felt so casual. It was like you were at a party and not a concert, and it was awesome. Like, I think anytime they start a show like that, I think it also shows, like, a confidence and a casualness that is
totally.
usually means good music is coming.
Yeah, it reminds me of I saw Hartford 2010, the 2-night run there, and the second night they opened with Fee, and it was a very similar vibe
Mm.
where, like, you're so amped, they walk on stage, and then they kinda just chill you out, and Lizards had that effect, Have Mercy at Charlotte 2019. Yeah, these, like, moments where I think about, like, the Gorge '98 show that people love that opens with Makasupa Policeman, like, if they
Mhm.
just, like, take it a little bit slower, it almost continues that tension and release that they love to apply across jams, across songs
Mhm.
in a really, really cool way. People out there listening, if there's any examples you have of great shows where they open with a slower song, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well as just general thoughts about last night's show at Moon Palace. But moving on from MoMA, we get that fade into a bust out. First bust out
Yes.
of 2022. Peaches and Regalia, first time in 5 years. I didn't realize that
Oh,
this hadn't been played since July 22nd, 2017. The second night of the Baker's Dozen, Strawberry Night,
wow.
138 shows again.
I
How
didn't
insane
realize
is
it
that?
had been that long
138 shows.
either. That's crazy. I love this song. They played this at my first show ever. This song is so awesome. And I didn't realize it had been that long either. I mean, I knew they hadn't played it in a little while, but I mean,
Yeah.
the Baker's Dozen seems like 10 years ago. I feel like
Everything
so
we've
much
been
has
through.
happened since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but oh my God, yeah, what an awesome version. So fun too. Like that kind of felt like now they're ready to rock. It's cool.
Now they're ready to rock. And, this song, I think I've only seen this song once, but this was on
Mm.
my second tape. My second tape was
Hmm.
9/14/99, and they open with it. And at the time, I don't know anything about Fish, so, you know, Peaches doesn't really I'm thinking it's a Fish song, and I remember just loving the guitar solo of it, and it does such a
Hmm.
good job of setting up that great, AC/DC bag from Boise, but later I would find out, oh, it's a Zappa song, huge, huge influence on Fish. Oh, it happens to be a huge bust out as well. This is the first time they played it in like 5 years. I just kept looking at Trey during this, like he was beaming during the Peaches
Yeah.
solo. It was like he nailed it and he knew it. His guitar was sounding just right. There was no like weird glitches or sounds. It just sounded full. It sounded fat. It sounded just like candy in
Hmm.
a lot of cases. And man, it just made me happy watching it. Whenever you hear like a
Hmm.
bust out like this, plus they nail it, it's just a great moment. Three songs into the set.
Yeah, and I wanna say I'm really glad that I webcast last night. I was kind of on the fence, like, am I just gonna listen or webcast? Watching them play last night was really, really fun. They just seemed so engaged, and it's so interesting because when I go to shows, I never really watch the stage because 'cause I'm just dancing and I'm short, so I can never see anything. So whenever I webcast, it's really fun for me to just really look at them and watch them interact, and I felt like last night it was really cool to see them just, like, so into it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I really got to wonder. We're 6 months past. 7 months, I guess. 7 months past the start of the 2021 summer tour. And, they've played a lot of shows in between July 28th, 2021 and today, even though they had the frustration of losing the MSG run or moving the MSG run to April and kind of
Mhm.
having to reschedule in that sort of standpoint. I felt watching them a lot of relaxation and a lot of like we had a great tour last year. There's a
Mhm.
lot of there's a lot of crazy shit happening right now outside of our control and in the whole world. And in this moment, we have this like just pure joy of being able to be on stage as friends. And how lucky are we that we are like at this level musically where we can play a guaranteed 4 night run in Mexico whenever we want to. Like
Mhm.
there feels like the sense of like tension, frustration, but also gratitude that I kept getting from 2021 shows seemed last night to be replaced by just like pure joy to be doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I feel like it's like anytime we get a chance to do this now, it just feels so precious in a way it never did
So
before. I
lucky.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so I agree. They just seemed like, at one point Trey was like, it's so great to be here. And like, you can tell he really meant it,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk really quickly before we jump into the next segment of songs. The look of the band last night.
Oh, we
Can you
have to.
describe pick either Trey or Fishman really stuck out to me, but pick either one of them and describe their look from your perspective.
Fishman was tripping me out. I mean, it's like if you took his head off of like a man wearing a dress playing drums, you could put that head in like a yearbook or I don't know, like some other like kind of academic place, like and it would look normal, but like on top of this man with like octopus arms, which is what I always think of John Fishman. Like he seems to like never move his body, but his arms are just like it looks like he has eight of them and they're just like
Yeah.
moving independently of his body and wearing this like purple and green dress and but then you look at his face and he's got this like crazy beard and like this wild humidity hair that was just like going everywhere. Like there's no product in that. Like he's not doing the Mike Gordon prep. Like he's like fully just, coming from the beach. And I thought it was awesome.
He looked to me like a college professor from like a northeastern college, like small liberal arts school,
Yeah.
teaches like 19th century American English, but also like plays in a bar band. And you're like, 20 years old, getting in like $5 cover, and like there's like a classic rock bar band playing in the back room. And you're like, oh
Man,
my
I feel
God,
like this is a movie. This is like a
is that like
screenplay.
Professor Johnson right there? Like, what is going are you guys seeing this? And like you find out that he like, he tokes a little bit on the side and like he's like the teacher that like your parents are afraid of because he's gonna like actually teach you to read like revolutionary style literature and like really open your mind.
Like a Dead Poets Society thing.
100%. That's exactly where I'm going. Um, Trey, on the other hand, looked like we were talking about this beforehand. He looked to me like Steve Zahn from The White Lotus, just like dad on vacation in the Caribbean, drinking mai tais at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, obviously he's not doing that, but like
He's
he
not.
had that look of just like dad on vacation, just like letting it go.
Carefree, not a care in the world, gets to do his favorite thing with his favorite people, with the
Just like
wind blowing
kids,
his hair. Yeah.
go scuba diving, like go do
Yeah.
like I'm not I am here to hang out. Like I don't
Yeah.
need to be dad this weekend.
No, I'm gonna start up some conversations with people at the bar. I'm gonna be cool.
I'm gonna mingle. We're just gonna see. We're gonna make some friends, and then we're gonna go back home to our lives. Um, it was a very good looking fish show in a way that I really appreciated. Um, moving on musically though, I never needed you like this before.
Mm,
This to me, like it had some serious power. What did
yeah.
you think of this?
Yeah, this one kind of surprised me. I don't know, whenever I hear this song, I just think of when Trey played it on The Late Show and just how it was that first time anybody had seen live music and like, not really live, but like it was just such a big moment. And I remember watching that and just being like, oh my God, like what's happening in this world. And every time I hear that song, I feel like that. And I also feel like it just like encapsulates so much of how we feel when we're back together. And, they opened summer tour with this. I mean, this song is just so powerful. And by the end of it, they were just like rocking, like
Yeah.
really intensely rocking. It was awesome.
Yeah, I too thought of that performance from the Late Show, and it got me thinking back to just like how crazy, that was 18 months ago, basically, that like it took 6 months to just get like a live performance on TV. So wild. But yeah, the power 2 years of cancellations, postponements all seem to just like come to a head in this. Really, really great take. And that song just keeps finding itself in really cool places in their set list. And I'm really excited to see where that goes. We then moved into Funky Bitch, a song that I tend to use. I want to be clear. I want to be honest. I tend to use this as a bathroom break song at shows. It's 7 minutes. I know. I'm
What?
sorry. Let me explain myself.
What?
It's 7 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
It never changes. I know the second it starts, like people are going to be getting down. I can run to the bathroom. I can be back by the time the jam starts. It is. I don't really love the blues, and I definitely don't really love Fish
Mm.
blues. We talked about this on Wednesday with regards to songs like My Soul. That said, Page crushed this. Like he had a really
Mhm.
cool organ solo, and I I don't know. I'd love to hear from any listeners out there. Like this was like the most buoyant version I feel like I've ever heard it. It was filled with dynamics. There were moments where it got really quiet and then got really loud again. There were moments where I was like, are they actually going to jam this song out? I was blown away listening to this. I thought it was an excellent version of Funky Bitch that I was not expecting and didn't expect at this spot.
Yeah, my notes, I just wrote hot damn. Like I thought it was a ripper. I mean, I love this song. I like to dance to this song. I think this song is just like super soulful and I just feel like it's just really fun. I love this song. I also just have some versions that I love of this song, but this one felt great. I felt like it did have a little bit of new life breathed into it, and I thought it was a great version, and it was an interesting placement, like, after I Never Needed You like this before, and then before Tweezer, that was, like, interesting to me. I couldn't really tell how I felt about it, but it's so different to think about song placement when you're thinking about a one-set show. I always am interested to think how Trey, like, thinks about this because it's so much different. I think that might have been the only moment that I was a little bit like, "Oh, this is an interesting spot." I feel like the rest of the set was just perfect, as far as set song placement, at least.
I agree. When they started this, I was kind of like, okay, we're just kind of getting like the show's been fun so far. We've gotten
Mhm.
some cool songs, but we're gonna get just kind of like a show because it's their first
Yeah.
show in 4 months and it's kind of this opening night thing. And yeah, the set list pacing, because at this point, you're basically just approaching the second quarter of the show. Like you're approaching that halfway point
Mhm.
of the first set where like we need to probably start thinking about like 3 or 4 songs before we go to set break, but instead
Mhm.
here you have that extended first set. So it's interesting like what they do after this. They go into Tweezer, and at this point, I'll take Tweezer anywhere. And I think an
Mhm.
early first
Same.
set Tweezer, sometimes while it doesn't jam as well as a second set Tweezer, it tends to kind of launch that first set into a place that it wouldn't have gone otherwise because of the placement. I was a little, I don't want to say concerned, but I was a little like, oh, this is an interesting slot here. Are we actually going to see a tweezer do something? Or are we just playing it here for placement to kind of like amp the energy? And the band went with the former. It was an incredible 22-minute jam. I think it's
Mm.
safe to say the first great jam of 2022. It'll be interesting to see where it lands, after the end of this weekend, after the Mexico runs. But if there was anything to take away from 2021, it was that they were not going to work themselves into jamming. They were going
Mhm.
to jam right out the gates and see what happened with like the Carini, with the Chalk Dust Torture, with the Tweezer from that first weekend of summer tour. What were your thoughts on this kind of this was an all over the place tweezer that really like
Mhm.
settled in your zone of music, and I want to hear your thoughts on this jam.
I loved it. It was right out of the gate. Like, the minute the lyrical section of the song stops, it's into gorgeous music. It's crazy. I was re-listening to it today, and it's like they didn't spend any time finding, like, a beautiful pocket. It was just they fell right into it. I felt it was so jammy and, like, layered, and it was really pretty, like, right away, which I think is sometimes not the case with tweezers. And there was just so many cool, like, synth effects, and Trey was playing, like, just gorgeously over it, and it was cool. I could hear them, like, listening to each other. There was this point when Paige was playing the piano, just like first of all, Paige's piano sounded so good last night, just in so many moments, but he was just playing these notes, like, this little, like, phrase over and over again, and Trey was interpreting it, and they were just going back and forth, and it was just magical to watch. And then to hear, like, Fishman come in with the effects at, like, just the perfect moment, and then, like, it was awesome. I thought this was gorgeous. I didn't expect it. It kinda took me by surprise. I was just sitting on my couch expecting, like, "Okay, this might be a good one." It was really good, really good.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I went back and I listened to this morning. I threw it on for a Peloton ride, and it was
Mm,
it was 3/4 of my ride. I did like a 30-minute just like zone ride where I was just like going, and this tweezer was right there with me. And it gives you like 2 to 3 segments. As I recall it, you get this like very beautiful segment right out the gates, like you're talking
mhm,
about. And usually like it takes them a second to transition from the funk of tweezer into whatever the bliss jamming would be. Here we're into this
mm,
blissful space. And it's almost a testament to so much of the work that they've done over the last, let's call it 12 years, 12, 15 years since
yeah,
3.0 started, where like they want to make sure if they're going to jam, they're jamming right out the gates with an
mhm,
intentional segment of jamming rather than working their way into it. And so you get this gorgeous segment that kind of builds. Page jumps over to the synths. He's adding really cool textures. Trey then kind of indicates that we're going to build this up to a peaking jam, but
mhm,
has been so much of the case with a lot of the jamming of last year and into now this year is they don't necessarily need to just jump into a tension and release peak jam.
mhm,
They can explore the terrain and they do that. And then out of nowhere, we get Trey on the synthesizer pedals, the Jedi pedal, I think is what we had described it in 2021, or Ryan Cherry did from Trey's guitar rig. That then distorts and disjoints this overall jam, and my initial thought at that point was disjointed fish meets a single set show in Mexico meant to be a casual affair. Like we were talking earlier about the sense that like they're walking in slowly,
yeah,
you got lizards, you got this like great vibe, the ocean's here, but no, it's still the vibe of 2021 fish has spilled over, and it really doesn't matter that you wanted a casual fish show. Oh, you just want to
mm-mm.
hang out on the beach, drink a couple cocktails with your friends, mingle, maybe hear the music in the background. No, like we're coming at you with a crazy jam. And that like 15 to 20-minute mark was just like some excellent psychedelia. And it really combined
Mm.
what we were both hoping from this band this year, which was really cool.
I know. I can't imagine what it felt like to be on the beach when, like, you're just kind of having fun listening to the show, and then it kinda gets, like, intense. I just feel like that
Yeah.
must have been super cool. You're like, "Whoa, wait a minute. Maybe the drugs are kicking in. I don't know."
My brother
Maybe the
joined us.
Mexican drugs.
Yeah, my brother joined us at the house for this show, and we were just, like, hanging out, and, we were talking through the first couple songs, and my son was still up with us, and then, like, somewhere in the middle of Tweezer, everyone just shut up and just looked at the TV, and I
Yes.
was looking around, and everyone was just like, "Oh, wow, Fish is back." Um, the only other thing I wanna shout out in this Tweezer just before we jump into this next segment of the show that really kind of felt like a pocket of jamming within songs, the
Mhm.
last, like, 2 minutes, don't sit on it. They're about to fade
Mhm.
out, and it's like this train page interplay that I thought was gonna build into another segment. It didn't. Who cares? It's the first jam of the year, but, like, it showcased this really cool thing that happened in a lot of the longer jams of 2021, where they would be finished with a segment and it's the natural point to move into a new song, and they just find a new musical space to play around with, and they decided to do that. And that gave me a lot of hope as we move into the latter part of the year, or the next show of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not taking any moment for granted. I think any moment can become something bigger, which I think is just a really exciting point to be at a band at this
Yeah.
point in their career. Amazing.
Yeah, it's the other point of it is that they are approaching their 40th year and they're having this continual rebound, like building creativity. It's incredible to watch. Um, the next segment, I think you can take these songs all as one. We go
Mhm.
Piper, really nice segue from Tweezer into Piper. Piper kind of gets cut off for Soul Planet. Like there was a really cool
Yeah.
moment of jamming, and I got the like live fish notification on Twitter that they were going to Soul Planet, but they were like still playing Piper, and you could just see Trey kind of hint Soul Planet, look at the band, and then be like, "Guys, we're playing Soul Planet like now. Stop," you know. But then
Exactly.
Soul Planet like goes into a really cool jam, which then goes into Meat in a very very nice segue, which then fades into the first Sci-Fi Soldiers song. Like that whole segment to me was all kind of one song. Tell me what your thoughts were on this, and then I think the thing that you want
Mm.
to talk about is the Sci-Fi Soldiers song. But tell me kind of what how
Yes.
you heard this segment of music.
Yeah, to me, this is kind of about the segues. Like, it's interesting just how they're moving through songs here. And I agree, it does kind of feel like a little sweet. I wasn't as kind of like engaged during this moment. I had to like take my dog out during Soul Planet, which, is a risk. Like, sometimes Soul Planet goes deep, but I was like, well, I'll be back by then. But then when I came back, they were like into Meat. And I was like, oh, okay. So I listened back to it today and I thought the segues were really cool. But then the Howling, that segue was so good, and this song, holy shit, like, super good placement, like, really, really awesome. I know you and I have been waiting, like, when are these Sci-Fi Soldier songs coming out? How are they gonna sound? I don't know if it's just because I haven't spent enough time listening to the Vegas version of these songs, but I loved this song last night. Like, it got so funky. It was just, to me, it sounded like almost like a 2001 vibe. Like, it was so dancey. I just felt like it was so much fun to watch. And I felt very like it had this easy groove to it. And it felt like the song they've been playing for a long time. Like, it didn't sound clunky. It didn't sound new. Watching Trey sing The Howling was just so fun. He was, like, smiling so big, like, "Yeah, that's right, guys, we're playing this, like, this is the new stuff," Like, "Here it is, you've been waiting for it, here it is." And then, like, hearing Paige, this moment when Paige plays, like, the dogs sound over it, and on the live stream, you can see Trey just, like, look over at him and, like, smile, like, "Yes, that's right." Like, it was so great. I loved this. I listened to this again this morning, and I was like, "Yeah, that was as good as I thought." That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that was interesting about this was how it kind of aligned with, I think, how we were hearing how these Sci-Fi Soldier songs are going to be played. It'll be interesting to hear how they continue to use it, but now it would seem on the table to just play these songs in the manner that they did. This kind of reminded me of the way that they use Death Don't Hurt Very Long and some of the uh, chilling, thrilling songs, where it felt less like a song and more like a transitional piece into a new jam. And by the way, we're yelling the
Mhm.
howling, which I personally like that. Like, I think
Yeah.
so many of these songs, when you listen to them and you listen to 2021 Fish jamming, there's an interconnectivity with improvisation, with how these songs were written, with how these songs sound to us. And so having them in this sort of a suite, to me, it just adds to the possibility for kind of more narrative fish jamming through like a second set where one of these songs
Mhm.
appears and it provides a cool bridge. So I thought it was great. I thought it led to an excellent jam.
Mhm.
Fades
Really
at that
funky.
point, really, really funky jam.
Yeah.
Fades at that point into Shade. We get our first like real ballad of the evening, our first like slow moment since the Lizards. I think this is a really sweet song. I think the way that Trey and Tom created a song about uh the sensation of like like long-term relationships
Mhm.
of we're gonna we're gonna move apart personally, but we're also gonna always come back together. And like you are the one person, that sensation is something that I think is really hard to write about, especially
Mhm.
for writers who have had challenges in the past of like being so specific or too general. Like it's a very, very, very beautiful song. So I dug it. And then we move into Evolve. These two songs back to back, I really enjoyed the vibe.
Mm.
I was really glad to hear Evolve. This is one of my favorite songs of that Trey wrote for the Lonely Trip album. What was your thought about this part of the show?
Loved it. I feel like the Howling into Shade into Evolve is just so indicative of where they are right now, like, taking this song that they wrote as part of this album for the New Year's costume into a song that is just an absolutely, like you were saying, sophisticated ballad that was on, Sigma Oasis, which was such a meaningful album last year, and then into Evolve, which is from Lonely Trip, and this song, Evolve, is so incredible lyrically. I mean, and it's just has a beautiful melody to it. I woke up this morning with it in my head, and if there's any song you wanna wake up to within your head, it is definitely Evolve. I mean, it is just I remember hearing this on Lonely Trip and just crying. Like, it's so hopeful and coming out of such a dark time. I think it just really speaks to where Trey is and in his songwriting and the kind of themes that are inspiring to him right now. And watching him sing this song, he seemed so happy and just I think that I could see him thinking about all of this kind of stuff of just this band is just they have evolved in a way that is beyond what anyone could have imagined. I mean, I don't think any of them ever imagined they would be this kind of band at this point in their career. And I think it's just still probably feels pretty magical to them. And I think that that moment, watching from home, it felt incredible. I can't imagine what it felt like there.
Yeah, it's a really good way to put it. And like I think about it, the places Evolve has been played throughout the last year. It was debuted as the opener of Nashville Night
Mm,
2, which
mhm,
was one of my favorite songs or one of my favorite shows of last tour. Um, From there, it was played as the opener of the second set on 10/17/2021, which was the first
mhm.
four song second set since 6/20/2004. And then this was the third performance. And so I feel like we're just starting to learn where this song can be played, how best it's employed. And I liked it in this spot because it was the first time it was not used as an opener. It felt like kind of a breath of fresh air, like catch your breath
Mhm.
because we're about to finish the set and then we have an encore, but also this reflective piece. It kind of worked in the same sort of way that like Hood and Slave do, in the sense of just like you can kind of look back on the night, you can kind of take a
Yeah.
breather. So it was an interesting placement for it, and I just think it's a really fascinating song. There's a lot of cool stuff going on underneath, and lyrically, it's one of his more inventive songs from
Mhm.
just like a lyrical perspective. Um, the final three songs of the set did not disappoint either.
Mm-mm.
Tube, we get some really, really cool jamming at this point in time. It's kind of got this deep pocket of groove going on into it. It really seems to summarize the style of jamming that they found themselves in before going into an arena rock god, Sigma Oasis, and a high energy
Yes.
Sand. What were some of your highlights here at this point?
Yeah, I just the end of Sigma Oasis, Trey was literally, like, jumping up and down, just, like, hosing out, just like, "Yes!" Like, it was awesome. I mean, I think it almost took him by surprise, the kind of power at the end of the song. I mean, that song is amazing, but it just really I don't think I've heard it played like that energetically. I don't know. It was usually sometimes I think of it as a little bit more of, like, a cooler down song, but this was, like, really, really an epic version. I thought it was awesome. And yeah, I mean, anytime tube is played, it's so much fun. I like the tweezer teases and just like great groove. And Sand is one of my all-time favorite songs. And I think this is a good version. This is a great way to end the set. I think the whole second set from Tweezer, or the whole, it's not second set, it sounds like a second set, but from Tweezer through the end of the set was just pretty perfect as far as song placement.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't timed it out, but I wonder if Tweezer to Sand would be a second set because that does feel like its own
Mhm.
like part of the show. And I agree. One thing I tend to love about fish shows are when I wouldn't have written down these
Yeah.
songs in this order, and yet it works. You know, like you listen to a lot
Mhm.
of Fish and you're like, okay, I want to hear this after this. I don't know if I would ever write down these, 7 or 8 songs in a row, but I wouldn't change it. It's a segment of music
Mhm.
that I will probably go back, you know, 6 months, a year from now, if I go back to listen to the show, I will probably start with Tweezer and go through the end of the show because it just all flows in that way. Sigma Oasis, I thought was going to end the set, but then
Mhm.
Sand, and it was a good reminder, kind of playful. We're on the sand. We're all hanging out here. Let's rock out one more time before the encore.
Mhm.
So we move into the encore, which was I haven't spent too much time seeing the reaction on Twitter. I've seen some kind of ridiculous posts from people saying that they left early. People
Really?
really, really upset about the encore selection. I'm just going to say really quick. So, like, I wouldn't have gotten into Fish without Dave Matthews Band. Like, that was my entry point. I was very, very typical story of like late 90s, early aughts high school student who goes to a Dave Matthews show, gets past like Crash or Live at Red Rocks, or whatever it may be, Dave and Tim's album. And I totally loved it. These were songs
Mhm.
that like sounded like a part of the lineage of classic rock history that I'd been a part of, but also like it's this newer artist doing this. My parents don't know about him, but like he's
Mhm.
playing his own music, he's writing his own music. There's this interesting improvisational element that I'm just completely unfamiliar with. You kind of have to go to every concert, you have to hear every concert. I was super into Dave Matthews Band for like 18 months, and they were like my favorite band in sophomore, early junior year of high school. And around that, like through meeting people because we all liked the same music, I was past Fish's 11/17/94 tape, and that threw me completely into Fish. I kind of jumped off with Dave Matthews Band after the Lily White sessions. That was my last like favorite record of theirs.
Mhm.
But in recent years, like a couple of friends of mine, like we've like rediscovered Dave Matthews Band, picked up things that we completely lost, and like listened to shows from the 90s that we just completely missed because they weren't really available
Mhm.
at the time. All this is to say, like, I love the dude, and I think he's a great songwriter, and he and Trey are clearly close friends. And I thought it was very, very cool to see him walk out on stage for the first time since June 17th, 95 to play with him. What were your kind of thoughts on the encore?
Yeah, I mean, I went to college in the mid 90s. So, of course, I like Dave Matthews. Like that is just, that's just he was everywhere then, He was like the crossover jam band. So, if you were into jam band hippie music, you had been to a Dave Matthews concert. I went to one. I liked him a lot. I also was, happy to hear him on the radio when I listened to the radio, and I think he's an incredible musician, and I was never a massive fan, but anytime artists want to bring other artists on stage that they, care about and that they have had a relationship with, I feel like I'd be remiss to complain about that. It's not like I want like a huge number of guests at a Fish show. I don't. I'm not into that, but I feel like this is a cool thing, and Trey usually sits in with them when he comes down to Mexico and plays a night with them. And I thought it was cool. I mean, I loved watching their interplay. I thought it was interesting. I haven't listened to much recent Dave Matthews. I was surprised his voice sounds, like it's had some miles on it, but I thought that it was really cool watching them play together, and to hear them play The Maker was awesome. I mean, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Like that song is just so rare and a really I don't know, it seems like it was a really influential song to a lot of people. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit beforehand. I didn't know that Jerry Garcia band played it. Like I didn't know what this song kind of meant. And I started doing a little research on it and who this producer was, who wrote this song, who worked with all these incredible people like Brian Eno and, U2 and all these other huge bands. So this song is really meaningful. So I feel like if you got to see two incredible musicians play this song live, like, and you're complaining about it, I guess I don't know, understand you. And, like, you're
Yeah.
also in Mexico. I'm in New York. It's, like, freezing rain here, okay? I'm happy about it, and I'm sitting on my couch. I'm like, "Don't you dare complain." No, I thought it was awesome, and then the Tweezer reprise was so great, like, watching them do that, like, Trey goes over with his guitar and kind of shows him, like, the initial riff, and then Dave starts it on the acoustic, and then they just played it to each other most of the time, just looking at each other. And they started dancing like 12-year-old boys in like a rock band in their garage. It was awesome. It was super cool. I loved it.
Yeah, I share all that. I loved that they played "So Damn Lucky," the album
Hmm.
Some Devil, Dave's solo album from 2005. I remember listening to a lot at the time. I had like a brief rediscovery with the band at that point because I was like, this is just an incredible record. And so I was
Mm.
glad to get a song off of that. And then The Maker, they played with Dave Matthews Band. I believe Dave and Carter played on the only other Fish version of it, October 15th,
Hmm.
1994. Dave Matthews Band has played it a few times, but yeah, Daniel Lanois, um, one of my favorite producers, one of my favorite musicians, produced a number of my favorite U2 records and has just done some incredible work. Produced one of my favorite Neil Young records, which
Oh,
is
wow.
called Lanois from 2010, which can also be pronounced Lanois. Really cool Neil Young record where he just is playing electric guitar with a bunch of reverb around him, all influenced by Daniel Lanois. Produced one of my favorite Bob Dylan records, Time Out of Mind. Just an amazing
Wow.
musician, amazing songwriter, and this is one of my favorite songs he's ever written. And it's just got such a melody that like feels like it's just plucked from another world. It's eerie and it just
Hmm.
like it's haunting, but it like kind of just like it gets my like heart all like I don't know, like I felt like
Hmm.
choked up listening to it.
Yeah.
And then Tweezer Reprise, I was thinking as it was starting, like, this is not a knock on the Dave Matthews Band, but like they don't have any song that has like the power of Tweezer
No,
Reprise. Like
no,
they just
not at
don't.
all. Not at all.
And letting that build up around him and him getting the riff and him getting the groove, and you could see him being like, "Oh yeah, this is a really good riff," and like, "Yeah, dude, like this is what like, this are the greatest 2 minutes in rock when this song happens."
Yeah.
And I was just thinking like, how is Dave gonna react when Fishman comes in with that ba, 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 ba,
I know.
and the riff goes and um seeing him that like patented weird Dave Matthews dance during Tweezer
Yeah,
Reprise, I was just like, this is a cool moment.
it was so cool. He's just like this like jalopy dance kind of like all like yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I was thinking the same thing. Like that is a power song and like how fun to be on stage when that song's being played and the crowd's just going crazy. Like that's an awesome moment to share with a friend. And I
Yeah.
thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, and the friendship aspect is like such a clear point of all of this is,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, these guys are in their late 50s. They've battled a lot of things throughout their lives. They've had a lot of ups and downs. And the fact that they're on stage in Mexico playing music to people. Dave played last weekend. Now Fish is playing this weekend. And he's just kind of hanging out, watching his buddy up on stage. And they got to share that moment. It was very, very cool to me. Dave was there for Trey in a lot of, really important ways.
Hmm.
And it reminded me of like the last thing I'll say about all this is like, the version of Line Our Graves from August 14th, 2007, I
Mm.
believe is what it is from SPAC. Um, Dave Matthews Band invites Trey on stage, and it's kind of Trey's like first moment back, and it's on YouTube. And I never fail to just like sob like a little kid every time I watch it because you can see Trey so grateful that someone invited him up on stage at that moment, and you can see him just like
Mm.
kind of like really really humble, kind of afraid to really show himself off, and then he just like lays into the music, and it's clear these two guys have a incredible friendship that goes years back. So, um, I loved the encore. I dug this show. You dug this show? You dug this encore? What are your thoughts kind of, as
Both.
you look back?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, I definitely even think there are things that I want to re-listen to from the show. So yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was great. And I feel like it sets the stage. I mean, I think we're set up to have a really good run in Mexico.
Yeah, I think that the thing you want on you know, a first night of the year, a first night
Hmm.
of a run like this is different than like the Friday night of a 3-night weekend run. This is kind of,
Hmm.
Mexico's its own thing. So the first night has a little bit more weight, but you kind of expect them to step back into things and figure things out. I don't think last night was the greatest fish show ever, but I think that like it sets up a weekend like this in a really good way. They seem that's the biggest thing I was looking for is that sense of comfort that they felt
Hmm.
throughout fall 2021. Is that still prominent? Is that still prominent? And it felt that way here to me. So I dug it. And I cannot wait for this evening show. It will be a 2-set show. And we will see you back here tomorrow at the same time. I think we're giving Meg the day off, so you can do some vacation stuff at that point. But we will see
Thanks,
you
Brian.
back here. You're welcome. We will see you back here on Sunday to
Yeah.
recap the Saturday show. But I'll be back here tomorrow with Jonathan to talk through the Friday, February 25th 2-set fish show from Mexico. Meg, before we go, do you want to tell us a little bit about our friends at Sunset Lake? Or do you want me to do that?
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I love
You got
Sunset
it.
Lake. Now I've become a really big CBD user. I love it so
Yeah.
much. And it's all because of Sunset Lake. They are a majority employee owned hemp farm, and they're located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm and they produced milk for Ben and Jerry's ice cream. But in 2019, they diversified and they started growing hemp for CBD. And they are so cool because they embrace Vermont's tradition for land stewardship. They use sustainable, regenerative farming techniques. They build and protect healthy soils. They're 100% pesticide free. They use minimal tillage and they implement cover crops and crop rotations. So they have got all the stuff going on to make sure that they are producing the best hemp. They also serve as a research farm for the University of Vermont's agronomists to study hemp and inform best industry practices. So I am a big fan of their gummies. I've also started using their tinctures. Last night when I was watching the show at about, say, like what, 10 o'clock, I had my gummy and it just kind of like eased my night so that when the show was over, I just went upstairs, closed my eyes, and went to bed. It's just like a really nice way to kind of seal off the night. So I highly recommend checking them out. And you can go to sunsetlakecbd.com, use the coupon code HFPod, and you get 20% all your products. Also, it's helpful because it lets them know that we sent you. So check it out, Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown.
You know what I really like with the tincture?
What?
I throw it in some tea in the evening, like 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock cup of tea, like caffeine free.
Oh,
And
that's
it's just like,
nice.
it's the best. I just kind of like sink into the couch for a little bit, watch. I've been watching all of Seinfeld in order, and I'll just
Oh,
watch
that's
an episode, just
fun.
kind of like chill out and then go to bed. It's great. It's perfect. So
That's perfect.
I
I'm
share
an
that.
evening tea person. So I think I'm going to bring some with me upstate and try that.
Just like,
Thank
5
you.
milligrams is all you need. It's
Mhm.
perfect. Well, Meg, this was a total pleasure. Thanks so much for hanging today. This was awesome. We were talking through 224 2022. We'll be back here 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow to talk through 225 2022. Everybody enjoy yourselves out there. If you're in Mexico, stay safe. If you're stateside, stay safe, hang out, enjoy the day, and enjoy the show tonight. We'll see you guys here soon.
See you soon. Thanks, Brian.
Bye bye.